Good morning, everybody. Good morning. This is Jillian. And I took a shower last night and I didn't like dry my hair, so my hair is like kind of crazy. Um, so yeah, this is my long hair and it's out of control sometimes, but that's okay. So I wanted to clarify something to you all. Okay, there's so many conspiracy things going on out there, and it's so insane. And there's no way that even myself can help head off the people's perception of the federal government. But I want you to understand something so you can kind of put it all in perspective for those of you who have been watching me for a bit. Um, when you're convicted of a crime, or here, how would I say this? I, the government does not purposely jail somebody to silence them because they're exposing trade secrets in the pharmaceuticals or in any, specific government institution. Now, there's always going to be rogue people in all parts of society that are going to do whatever they're going to do to make people think, or in fact, there might be a conspiracy through people, but it's not the nature of the government to just take somebody away and silence them, as far as today's current government. Now, you can say I'm naive and say, oh, well, you don't know about, what happened like with what is it, Watergate and all of those government conspiracies. Well, yeah, that stuff happened back then. Okay, we're talking about today. So I'm still reacting to the whole Judy Mikovits because her video went totally viral and the anti-vax community is spinning all of her information, and she's spinning it too because she's making money off of the ride that she's on, and I don't blame her. I mean, if my career was failing and I had nothing else going on except to cater to the conspiracy community as well as the anti-vaxxers, why not? It's a great, ripe, easy community. But I want to tell you this. If I'm able to talk against vaccines, remember the book that I have that I just discontinued, okay, the Exposing the Lies book, if I can write that book and I have anti-vax stances in that, okay, and I have I would say a lot of conspiracy stuff, okay, in that, and I'm able to write that book and it's able to be published. Like I was legitimately published through a publisher. Okay. So if I'm able to write that book, go on Dr. Phil and talk about how, the doctors are this and the doctors are that, and they're hiding and they're doing, I mean, whatever I said on Dr. Phil, that was a bit anti-establishment. If I can write a book and go on Dr. Phil and have a bunch of hit pieces written about me, making inferences that I was a cause to somebody's death, but I was never charged, was never brought in for questioning, though I did voluntarily go in to talk to the FBI because I had people making death threats against me. And then in turn, they wanted to see why the hell would someone have death threats against you? And so I gave them the whole story of what was going on. They're like, oh, well, okay, that sucks. When you stick your neck out, that's what's possibly going to happen. So I was never indicted. I was never charged. I was never silenced by my government. I was told that you can't advertise in a specific way. Now, someone say, oh, well, that's the government, too much government overreach. No, it's called the Federal Trade Commission saying that you can't make claims and word things in such a way where it's going to mislead people. And that's true because cures. Jelly juice is not a cure, so of course I should never be writing about jelly juice as if it was a cure because they're correct. Jelly juice is not a cure. It's a major reversal, but they don't want me saying that. So if I mention any type of specific symptoms on a web page that is marketed to the general population and is selling some kind of idea or book, you can't even mention symptoms or make any inferences that what you have is going to do anything for symptoms. Okay. And so that's the only thing that I was dinged for as far as the government. The Ohio Attorney General wanted to ask me, how can you substantiate these 10 claims that we have had written complaints about? And I went and substantiated that and I submitted that, of which I'm going to be revising it with some really intense research. Okay. So I'm going to let you know this. Judy Mikovits was not silenced because of the whole vaccine thing. No, she was not silenced for that, for exposing trade secrets. That's what the anti-vaxxers platform is using her as a tool to make you think that the government was trying to jail her for talking about these trade secrets in the vaccine companies. No, she was actually charged for, and they were going to pursue criminal charges for theft of the data. And it was all about who owned the data. Okay, so just because the charges were dropped didn't mean that the actual charges were legit, because they were. I was never indicted. I was never charged for saying anything against, pharmaceuticals. I still today talk about pharmaceuticals, okay, and how they are very, very harmful to people who have issues. So anyways, and so, the fact that I was able to write a book, which I let my friend borrow it, but where I did have a little space in there, an anti-vax, portion in that book that I discontinued actually last week. And I was not arrested or charged for speaking out against, but you were never in the company itself. You were never, exposing trade secrets. So how, so they don't think you're that important. It doesn't matter, because it's like anytime I've been all over mainstream. And now they're trying to say that, they're trying to make fun of me, but I'm pretty legit enough, okay, to have all these hit pieces, and yet there's no charges. Okay, all these hit written articles that were like slamming me. And just because you don't hold a PhD doesn't mean that if the government thinks that you're dangerous to society, they're not going to want to arrest you. Because take away her PhD, and maybe she's a janitor in that place, and she found these pieces of, the fact that she's a PhD, she's able to spin information even more so to fit the narrative. So I just, want you guys to know that when the government actually charges you with a crime, it's because there's actual legit crimes being committed. It's not because they wanted to silence her. Because believe me, if that was their MO, they could have silenced me. And who are you, Jillian? You're nothing. Well, I must be enough to be brought on Dr. Phil. I must be enough to where Newsweek, Daily Mail, Pathos, what else? BuzzFeed, and all of these naysayers out there have targeted me and my people. I must be enough of a force to where I had so many people. Not so much anymore, thank God, because they finally got getting used to my information. But let me tell you, I was enough of a force to where if the government actually worked that way, where they wanted to silence any kind of dissenting opinion by anyone influential, even in the conspiracy community, because they shut down Larry Cook. They shut down a lot of different people that were talking, anti-vax stance. But yet I wrote a book that's been mainstreamed. I even said it to freaking Daily Mail that I was anti-vax back then, but nobody came after me and wanted to put me in jail to shut me up, right? But that's what the conspiracy community thinks. They'll take anything they can. The anti-vaxxers will take anything they can that may even look like something that is government overreach, and they will spin it, and they will spin it, and then you get so twisted, and then you have a total false perception of your own community. And then you start demonizing the people that are actually trying to help you. And then you suspect me because I'm saying I'm not anti-vax. I'm not pro-vax or anti-vax. I just know that with the J juice. That you don't have to take vaccines or prescription drugs. But I can't tell someone who's not doing J juice not to get the medical intervention, whether it's a vaccine or some kind of prescription drug. It's not for me to decide. So I'm not going to be anti-vax. But I'm not going to ask to take all the vaccines out there because I don't need to. But if it ever became mandatory because of, for whatever reason, I would do it. So it's not like I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to not do it. But, it's all about balance. The best way for you to promote your position of anti-vax, for those of you on Jelly Juice, is to promote how well you are doing, to where in your heart, mind, and soul, you don't need government intervention as far as vaccines, but if you had to take them, you would, because you can handle them. And you don't need prescription drugs or holistic remedies because you have Jilly Juice and you'll be able to handle the healing process. You won't need any kind of sanitizer or disinfectant or anything else like that because you're not afraid of the germs that are out there because your body can handle it. But there are some bodies out there that cannot handle the viruses, they can't handle the germs, they can't handle anything out there. So they're going to need government intervention. But it's not for any of us to try to spin information to scare people away from something where they have nothing else but taking holistic remedies on an overabundant basis where it's going to destroy their microbiome. So, I mean, people say, well, how can you compare yourself to Judy Mikovits? Because I'm just as influential as she is. Now, I'm not trying to pump my own horn, but let me tell you, you know, she's on the ABC and all these different major news outlets talking about her crimes. I'm on these major news outlets. They're like questioning, who the hell is this chick? But there's no crimes being committed in the Jeju's world. There has never been a crime being committed in Jeju's world. But she did, in fact, commit a crime. She stole proprietary information. And then how she got the charges dropped is that she returned parts of that data that didn't belong to her. And it was all about the data, who owned the data. Not what was in the data, but who owned the data. And when you work for a company where everything that you do and that research in that company belongs to the company, it's not up to you to take that information because your career is failing and you want to now go spin it and join the opposite argument. Because I get it. People have to make money. I understand that. But what's going on is why YouTube is censoring that video, because it is dangerous. There are a lot of very highly pissed off, easily influenced people that are going to glom onto some little thing that looks like it would fit their agenda. And I already see it even in my own world. Okay, not even just my husband, but the people that I live in the same community that are believing that stuff. And they're not going to do Jeju's because they don't understand it. They're not going to get a vaccine because they think that they're messing with the vaccines. And so then maybe they're doing their prescription drugs and their holistic remedies. And so guess what? It's just going to be a very huge domino effect. And you're going to see an acceleration of people's death trajectories. And that's unfortunate. But, I just wanted to kind of put things in perspective. And so I personally, went last night and took some information from someone that was refuting, that knew what I knew, that this woman was a freaking liar, Judy Mikovits, and the government never planted those notebooks in her house and then charged her. I mean, that's a total bald-faced lie. And so when I took all that person's information and condensed it in some kind of like string of articles and comments, that's what I posted. That is giving people another perspective on Judy Mikovits. No, she's not a hero. Criminals that wear capes to distract you from the actual situation, that's a very dangerous game. And we are revering criminals in our society, and that's pretty horrible. But it's our society. We have lost our way. That's probably why the COVID-19 exists, because there's so many imbalanced people that we need to clean up our society. And it's going to take a minute. It's going to take a while. But yeah, the government has no qualms with what I'm saying. The government has no qualms. But who has issues with what I'm saying? The holistic MLMers, the conspiracy people, the anti-vaxxers. They have an issue with what I'm saying because they don't understand balance. I know that one half of biotech, which does all the prescription drugs and those prostaglandin inhibitors and the holistic community and all those prostaglandin inhibitors and all of their antibiotics and anti-everything, they're the ones that have contributed and laid the groundwork for all of this. And they're the ones that would have a lot of issue with my information. Not the government, not biotech can give a crap about me. Okay? But the ones that have an issue with me are the people that I'm posting the balanced information to. They're the ones that would commit the crimes. They're the ones that would go be a vigilante and harass someone and stalk somebody. They're the ones that would actually fit the characteristics of somebody, killing off the doctors. I'm not saying they're going to kill, but, they're the ones that would exemplify those characteristics of somebody who's completely afraid of their government. They would actually act out some of those things. So, and that's what I dealt with a couple of years ago. When I first introduced this, they became the very thing they were afraid of, which is government coming in and taking them away or harassing them or targeting them. Oh, I'm being targeted. I'm being targeted. Well, yeah, by people that don't agree with you, not by your government, by people that don't agree with you. And then guess what's a self-fulfilling prophecy? But I mean, I have a speed dial to the FBI. All of my community knows me. Every single agency in Ohio, my governor knows me because he was the attorney general when people were making complaints against me that I finally had to substantiate, which I did. Okay. The Better Business Bureau knows who the hell I am. Okay. So there isn't any government agency in Ohio, especially in my county, that doesn't know something about Jilly Juice. The judges, the police officers, the court systems, they know exactly who I am. They know where I live. They know it all. And I'm not dangerous. I'm not arrested. My dog's doing great. I'm doing great. My husband's doing great, though he's kind of doing the Jilly Juice, but not really. He did it for a minute. And now, he gets it through a different way. So it's like, okay, so the government will not silence anyone that has a differing opinion. The government silences people not silences, but government arrests people who break the law. So if you continuously break the law, like intentionally or inadvertently, you go to jail, you get charged, and then you plead, guilty or not guilty, or you negotiate with your accuser. Never was I ever indicted, charged to be silent because of my political stance, ever. And so if I can go on Dr. Phil and say what I say, if I can have all those articles written about me, if I can have a book written that's anti-vax, which it was. See, that's the thing about people when they're arguments. If you can't even understand and explain both sides of the argument, then you have no business having that argument. If you can't legitimately put yourself in the other person's shoes and argue for their position, because once you understand both sides of the argument, you take yourself out of the argument and you understand why people have these positions, and you don't be so extreme and then become one of those vigilantes who will terrorize someone who gets a vaccine, like some of these anti-vaxxers do. Some of these anti-vaxxers are the actual terrorists in our society. They have destroyed some families. They have stalked some mothers out there. I've seen it in the anti-vax world when I belonged to it a couple years ago. There was the Matthew T. Phillips or whatever his name is, that guy, and then his people, who's this lawyer that says he's suing everybody. Remember those days? I'm glad I'm out of those days. Those days were some crazy days, but it needed to happen. You have to be immersed to really understand. You truly, must understand both sides. So then you can balance out, and then to truly prove and substantiate your position is through an indirect way of showing that we don't really need the medical holistic industry if your body and mind and spirit is so well balanced. And what does that look like? Well, at this point, we have a third option. It's called the Jilly Juice. And so at least we have the three options. So you have the holistic, the allopathic, which are two sides of the same coin. They do spend the same. They do kill you the same. It's the end result's the same. And then you have Jilly Juice that gives you a stay of execution for those that use it as a cure, but then it can give you a major reversal if you actually stay on it and not use Jilly Juice as a cure. Because that's what some people do with Jilly Juice. They use it as a cure and they don't get the maximum benefit and then they fall off. Okay? But Jilly Juice can still be used medicinally, but that's not the intention. But that is some of the intention of people who don't understand it. They're not on it long enough to give anyone a real good testimony because they still hold the same predispositions. They're still obese. They still have major issues. They're still playing with the black oils and all of the different disinfectants and whatever. And they don't have any substantial testimony to really, truly give people an idea that you don't need to have all these disinfectants, prescription drugs, and all of the holistic remedies. So I know exactly who my people are, and I know on the spectrum as far as where they are in the Jilly Juice. I understand, and that's fine. I'll take what I can get. But I hope one day you guys will graduate from your dipping your toes into the Jilly Juice to really taking it on exponentially to where you are a force, to where people in your world see the difference and see then why you wouldn't need a vaccine, why you wouldn't need a pharmaceutical drug, why you wouldn't need anything but the Julie juice and the food supply and a well-balanced body, mind, and spirit. Yes, Julie juice is the equalizer. It can work with anything out there that you have. And then the intention is to get off of all of the prescription drugs, the disinfectants, the fear of germs, and then you are so well balanced in body, mind, and spirit. But it's going to take some time because people are still playing in the holistic allopathic world. Okay, so people do what they got to do, but I just wanted to give that different perspective on indictments, charges, jail, all of these things, because I'm telling you that the conspiracy community is freaking out of control. They are so out of control. And I belonged to it for a couple of years, so I know how out of control they can be and how much people will rationalize anything as long as it fits their agenda. And it's a trip too. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.